that we have people here at 8 o'clock. But in any event, I'll give it my best shot. My name is Michael Bretzka. I am from South Africa. I am the co-founder and director of Swift Geospatial, based in Pretoria in the CSR campus. And over the last 10 years, we've been not creating the data, we've been using the data in order to make decision support. Today, I'm going to be just briefly chatting just one slide on Swift, and then from there, just our journey into agriculture monitoring, particularly on the African country, and then mainly looking at kind of small scale and why we selected certain data types in order to assist us with the outputs that we're looking to try and achieve, and obviously then to try and look at yields and try and understand the logistics around what's happening, and then displaying that data. All right. Okay, so the one slide on Swift. As I mentioned earlier, we're into our 10th year now, so I think we're doing something right somewhere. Ultimately, what we like to do is take raw data and create decision support. Now, I know in the last couple of days, we've been talking about decision support, but that's basically what it is. We don't give answers. You know, data is not meant to give you an answer. Data is meant to give you decision support, and you're meant to use that with many other decision supports from other people and from other organizations and from people, and to inform with better decisions. We take that raw data and we create knowledge, and we display that knowledge for you to use however you want to use. In order for us to get there, we partnered with 3 key partners with us. One is Vantor, which is an American high-resolution satellite company. With Planet, they have a booth at the front here. What's key with Planet is that it's daily satellite imagery, and then we are also Esri partners, so we take that raw data in an Esri environment and create products. The 4 products that we have on offer is Swift Forest, Commercial, Natural, Detect, so change detection, land use cover monitoring, anything where there's encroachment into areas where they shouldn't be, Swift Mine, and then Swift Farm. All right, so when we're talking about precision agriculture, what are we talking about? How do we shift the narrative? Right, so in general terms, traditional farming is looking at the field as a whole. All right, so I'm going to take my field as a whole, however many hectares that I have, and I'm going to treat it as one, irrespective of what's wrong or what's happened in certain parts, and it's normally based on a certain schedule. And that's done because of lack of data or timing or along those lines, or kind of imagery that can provide you with insights. So in the product that we have, we're trying to change that narrative into precision agriculture. So try and look at your field not as one singular, but what is happening within your field. So there's certain parts within your field that are doing better than others, or there's certain parts that may be under attack from pests, or starting of a drought, or starting of waterlogging, or something along those lines, and then spreading that to all of the fields within a region and understanding what to use when. And then applying maybe fertilizer or something like that to targeted areas. So not just using fertilizer for the whole field, but now targeting fertilizer to certain areas. So yes, I'm spending money on getting data, but if you get the right data, you're going to be saving money, because I'm not going to be then spraying my whole field or applying fertilizer to my whole field. I can be targeted. And that can be then done by human intervention or drones or something along that line for a much smaller environment. So how do we get there? So in our case, because we're Planet partners, we are using Planet data as our single source of data coming in. The importance of that is that it takes a picture of the Earth every single day. So no one's tasking it, it's just doing it. And at 3-meter resolution, we're now bringing the world into small-scale farming, right? So 3-meter resolution is 3 by 3, it's 9 square meters. And I'm getting a pixel, I'm getting information on that 9 square meters. So instead of having these mega farms, we can now branch off into areas where there's small-scale farmers that also need support through co-ops, and then using that data in order to produce the analytics that we need. You do bring in third-party information as well, so we can also ingest various other types of satellite information, and then kind of fuse that data all into one normalized spatial data set that is competitive, that is repeatable, right? So we can use the same data and get the same results. That's what we're trying to get here. We want the same data, same results, so that we can use that over and over again and build a monitoring solution. The three pillars in agriculture monitoring is your field health. So then we're just looking at your general field health, which is perfectly fine. But once again, monitoring on a daily basis or a weekly basis in order to create the baseline, work off that baseline to understand if your field's improving or not. In-field stress, which is the most important to understand which parts or sections of your field is in need, or if any. And then from there, moving into harvesting, not necessarily harvesting so that the farmer knows, but harvesting from a logistical point of view. So now if you're a government organization, to understand, has my sugarcane grown? Has my wheat grown? How much wheat is being harvested this week, right? Logistics, transportation, mills, those types of things to understand, are we going to have a backlog at a mill or a transportation? Or do I have food insecurity this season because we planted later, right? We're starting to get into that era now that we can produce that type of information on a weekly basis. And then all of that yields into a yield prediction model. And I think the key elements here are two. The first one is historical data, right? It's vitally important that we create this kind of baseline information on what we're measuring against. Otherwise, every season is just a brand new season and we don't have any baseline. Right? So that baseline is vitally important. And then from there, we can't do anything without groundwork, right? Without people helping us on the ground, the actual farmers on the ground. That's a vital source of data that's coming in from the farmer. So it's more of a relationship, once again, a decision support, than just a tool to give you the answer. All of this leads together, and it's a continuous back and forth relationship to understand and to improve models. And then at the end of it, really, where the Esri section of the talk comes in is that we build everything on our Esri environments. We have AWS servers, image servers, that we retrieve the data, run the analysis, host the data, and then share the data. Now, sharing the data is vitally important because we need to share the data at various levels, right? To the field worker in the ground to understand where he needs to maybe apply the fertilizer, to the farm owner who's maybe just interested in all of his fields to understand which ones are healthy and which ones aren't, but more so than bringing it into a virtual interactive environment where you can get easy access. I mentioned Planet earlier, and it's a great source of data, but no one cares about an image of their field every single day. No one's going to look at that. No one cares about that data. They just want the answer, red, bad, green, good. And with that, that is where the visualization comes into it, because this is what we want to try and achieve, is understanding that data, but then putting it into an area that makes a lot of sense. And then sending those reports even via a WhatsApp, right? So after all the back end, just getting a WhatsApp to the farmer in the morning to understand that field B, north quadrant, is under stress. That's all that they want to know. They don't need to know the sensor, the resolution, anything like that. They don't even need to log into a platform. They're just trying to understand that and get that knowledge and get that data. And then sharing that data to all levels of organization, from individual farmer that can get the information that he wants, to a farming organization, to a farmer owner where they have multiple fields. They can't go look at these fields every single day, to NGOs, NPOs, or government organizations that might be looking at food security, understanding that from a larger perspective, getting that information in order to make informed decisions moving forward. Currently, we're sitting at about 200,000 hectares that we monitor on a daily basis around the African continent, using this data sets to come through, visualizing, and then outputting the reports to individuals who need these reports to understand if they're making the right decisions or not. And then on that, thank you. A little short fire can go further in depth in the analytics side and the methodologies, but I'll save that for a cup of coffee afterwards. So thank you very much.
A big hand of applause for Michael Breska. A big hand. And he stuck to his time, so he was proud of that. That's very good. Thank you for telling us more about empowering decision makers' access to in the agricultural sector. Next, we'll have Marius Grosch. He's the CEO of Protos Technologies. A big hand of applause for that. It's the clicker you have, and it's the timer.
Okay, thanks. Good morning, everyone. It's pronounced Cornier. So thank you very much, Michael, especially for your very good presentation, because where you look at integration and connectedness downstream, I look at it from a more upstream in an engineering environment. So that's why I want to talk to you about spacecraft performance engineering today, which is very critical or essential part of in space engineering. So yes, as Proteus Technology. So we are a Siemens software reseller for Sub-Saharan Africa. But let's talk about space. So the past 20 years, especially since SpaceX was started as a company, we've seen the commercialization of space through privatization. And that has led to many initiatives that is well presented in the media. People wanting to go back to the moon, trying to get to Mars. There's a lot of bold explorations. But the environment that we are venturing into hasn't changed. It's still a very harsh environment. But we're now combining a lot more domains, engineering domains, into these spacecraft. So it's not just mechanical anymore, it's very high-end electrical, electronic, mechanical, and don't forget software integration. And this is driven by cheaper missions, and it needs also to be human-rated, and verification qualification is always a key challenge. So this complexity is driving spacecraft development. And so there's a lot more that can go wrong. Think about it, the more elements there are now to a spacecraft, the more interactions there are, the more things that can go wrong. But the classical challenges still remain, that hasn't gone away. So if you look at the phase of developing a spacecraft, so we take it all the way from a mission analysis, mission define review, your preliminary requirements review, system requirements review, CDR design reviews, your acceptance reviews, your operational, your flight review, all the way to your end of life review. Now, throughout of that, you're working with requirements. You've got your systems engineers, you've got your electrical, mechanical simulation, and your digital mock-up. And then the performance engineering is then, of course, your testing for verification and validation. But throughout this whole process, you're generating a lot of data. So there are a lot of people involved. So you've got your agencies, your prime contractors, and then your different tiers of subcontractors, all involved in this process. So from the start, you've got a lot of back and forth between these different domains and different people involved. So there's a lot of data generating, information, decision-making, reviews. And that takes a really long time. You're not saving time by using as fast a simulation. This is where you save time. It's all within this interaction. So, and when you get to the critical engineering domain, there's a lot more back and forth between all the different stakeholders. And then, of course, towards the end, before launch, even more so. So that's why you need. So the question I want to ask you is, what if we could work collaboratively with contractors, no matter what tool set, no matter what CAD or simulation or testing tool set you use? What if we can orchestrate technical content on the scope of your program throughout the entire life cycle, not just the product development bit? What if we could eliminate integration issues before reaching detailed design? And we can go on, trace concept design back to the final product and continuously monitoring the whole development process. And final verification through the design back to requirements. What if we could integrate all of that? So, the key technologies to support your digital transformation in spacecraft development. First of all, you need the digital twin data authoring tools. Okay, most of us got that. Then we recommend looking at spacecraft program management throughout the digital thread. You need to connect all of those digital twins and then manage those programs. And you need a foundation through which you can manage your engineering data as well as your workflows, your processes. So quickly, we're going to just quickly skip that. Sorry, I've taken a workshop presentation and now I need to condense it into 10 minutes. So looking at your model-based systems engineering, so the typical V diagram and then flatten it, there are 5 elements to this model-based systems engineering. Your product definition. This is also looking at your system, your systems architect. In the very beginning, you're looking at your requirements, your integrations, what will work with what functions does this product need to deliver. And then there's the connected engineering, looking at your different engineering domains, but this is not connected just in terms of the product connected physically to each other. This is also connected in terms of data, workflows. And then engineering, looking at how you're going to engineer and optimize this product for the mission. And the critical element is software, your embedded software, your firmware. So this is not downstream, this is on the spacecraft itself. Then there's your domain-specific verification and validation and design optimization. So keep in mind, validation is, did I build the right satellite? Verification is, did I build the satellite right? So your product validation is normally linked to your user requirements. Did I address the user needs? Whereas verification normally from engineering looks at, did I build this to the right specifications, build on the requirements? And then your physical testing is extremely important. And the verification and validation process goes throughout the entire life cycle. It's not just one part of the life cycle. And that's why we think the integrated program planning and execution is a critical part of your product lifecycle management throughout. So this is just an example of where different stakeholders use the Siemens software to develop the James Webb Space Telescope. So where do we get involved? Just from a SimCenter point of view, simulation, spacecraft safety and mission assurance. We've talked a lot about risk and risk mitigation, insurance and so forth. Spacecraft propulsion performance, structural thermal mechanism engineering, more my field of my domain. Electromagnetics, especially now that Siemens acquired Altair, which has strong high-frequency electromagnetics simulation capabilities, and then spacecraft testing and verification qualification. So Siemens is the only vendor that combine simulation and testing. No other vendor can do that. So I'm going to quickly jump through this. Apologies for that, but I invite you to come speak to me afterwards more about these specific domains. Just a quick one here. For example, the testing. ESA has now standardized using SimCenter physical testing. So let me just. The message we're trying to convey here is that instead of having no integration, working on disparate and disconnected systems, we recommend you can use still the same tools, but work in an integrated and very dynamic environment. That is how you do various methods, especially what we call digital threads. Digital threads for systems engineering, design optimization, and the physical testing. But also then program management, your supply chain, your different subcontractors that gets involved. Smart manufacturing, and this is a domain that can also be transferred to other engineering disciplines, domains, industries, for especially automotive, and then product support. So that's more about enough about the engineering problem. Who are we? We are a Siemens reseller for Sub-Saharan Africa. We've got a heritage in mechanical, optical, and optical-mechanical payloads for satellites. That's where we started. And then we ventured into, and we developed our skills using NX SimCenter and Teamcenter, and then we ventured into the dark side of sales. I want to thank you for the opportunity, and I want to thank you, the organizers, for this wonderful event. I think it was extremely good of you to combine data and downstream and upstream domains. Thank you very much.
A big round of applause for Marius. Marius, you started talking about project life cycle. That's my background. So I was like, ooh, requirements, user requirements. So thank you so much for that presentation. Next, I'd like to welcome Dr. Deb Jyoti, the Senior Vice President for Galaxy I. A big round of applause, please. Until he gets on stage, we know our tradition.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm Deb. I represent Galaxy. Galaxy. Thank you. So Galaxy is a company which has made world's first Optosar satellite. What do you mean by Optosar satellite? Is we made a satellite which has two sensors on the board. One is optical and other is SAR. This is world's first. Nobody has ever tried this. We launched our satellite on 3rd of May. We will talk more about it. So Galaxy was founded 5 years ago in India by 5 pass-outs from one of the most premier institutes of India called IIT Madras. And me as well as Prakhas support the founders in day-to-day operations and market outreach. We have been featured twice in our Honorable Prime Minister's podcast, which is called Man Ki Baat. He spoke to each of the founders and understood what is the technology about and added his value to it. We have been funded by many, but we are funded. The important point to note is we are funded by Defense Innovation Fund of India. So why we thought? I was talking with Michael and we both agreed that one of the biggest challenges when it comes to Earth observation is the cloud. Whenever there is a cloud, using optical, you can't get the data. Below the cloud, what is there? You don't know what is the scenario. So generally, when we talk about optical and SAR, what are the advantages and disadvantages? Let's just understand that first. Optical, very easy to interpret because we have been born seeing color images. We know how to see objects in a color image. In SAR, you can see through the clouds. You can do nighttime imaging. What is the challenge? The challenge is, in optical, you can't see through the cloud, and in SAR, the image is very difficult to interpret because it's more noisy. So what we decided is, or we thought is, let us build a satellite where we can put both these sensors together on the same platform, and we called it as Drishti. Drishti is the name of the mission, the satellite, and Drishti means vision in our language. So we call this Optosar. This technology has already been patented. The patent has been granted. You can see a couple of images of our satellite. The leftmost is the satellite where the SAR antenna is totally open. This is the image which we have taken in our clean room. The middle satellite is in a folded, when the antennas are folded, this is how we shipped it to the SpaceX. And the rightmost image, you see it is attached to Falcon 9 of SpaceX, ready for the launch. So when we talk about a satellite, we know that it's not easy to make a satellite and operate right at the straight way. So how we progressed? We started with our developing our sensor for drones. We made Asia's first sensor which has a drone SAR and optical sensor. The payload carries both. We had done 500 flights on this, captured data, fine-tuned the sensors, understood the issue nuances, what are the issues, we tried to correct them, and then we parallelly moved to something called HAPS. HAPS is high altitude pseudo satellites. We tested our sensor on HAPS. We have a tie-up with a government organization in India with whom we flew it, tested it, and got the results, and again further fine-tuning. Then Indian government supported us by giving a space in their rocket, which we call PSLV, that is Polar Solar Launch Vehicle. This, we put it at the, once we put one subsystem in the orbit for 15 days, tested it, got the results, whatever the issues it was reported, we corrected them, and then we created our satellite, which we launched on 3rd of May. So, what is OptoSAR? I have tried to take the two different images. One is optical and one is SAR. So this is the optical. You can see in the cloud area, you are not able to see any feature below the cloud. This is SAR. You can see the feature very well, but you can't see a stadium here, which you can very clearly see it here. When we fused it, this is the result. You can see, we can see everything. Everything is getting colorized. We can see the stadium also. So it is bringing out the information from both the images and making an image which is better to interpret. Now what is the challenge? Since I have taken images from two different sensors, I will not like to name the sensors here. They were captured at different time because two satellites can't, it's very rare, will capture the data at same time. So what happened? I will give you the example. You see here, there is a vessel docked at the port, but there is no vessel here because either the vessel has moved out or just got docked when the images were taken. So when the fusion happened, there was no vessel. So what we decided is, if we put both the images, both the sensors together on the same satellite, we can capture the data at the same time with same look angle. What we do with that? We take care of the spatial mismatch and we take care of the temporal mismatch. So this is the satellite, certain specifications. The satellite SAR is X-band. The multispectral is 7 bands, PAN plus 6 multispectral. Look angle is minus 45 degrees to plus 45 degrees. Orbit is around 505 kilometers SSO. SSO means sun synchronous orbit. Mass is around 190 kgs. Satellite size is 1 meter by 8.8 meters by 0.83 meters. So this is the specifications of our data. We are going to provide two types of data. One is a fused data bundle and other is the SAR data. When we talk about this OptoSAR, which is the fused data bundle, it has 3 different modes or 3 different types of images. One is PAN-SAR, second is RGB-SAR, and third is MX-SAR. PAN-SAR is basically fusion of PAN and SAR. The resolution is 1.2. RGB-SAR is fusion of PAN, RGB bands and SAR, or the X-band. The MX, the resolution is 1.8. The MX-SAR is fusion of all the 6 multispectral bands with the SAR. The resolution is 3.6. We are going to offer the image in 2 different scene sizes. It's keeping the user in mind that if they require a smaller data set, they can go for the smaller scene size. If they have a larger study area, they will go for the larger scene size. When we talk about the bundle, we are providing, along with the fuse data, the SAR data and the optical data also. Why? Because we know there are users who have their own fusion algorithm. They may like to use our SAR and optical data and put it in their algorithm and fuse the data. That is why we want to give that flexibility to them. I may take a couple of more minutes, please bear with me. In the SAR offering of ours, we have 4 modes: spotlight, sliding spot, strip map, and strip scan. The resolution is 0.9, 1.2, 1.8, and 3.6 respectively. Again, there are 2 scene sizes. We have launched our first satellite on 3rd of May, as I informed. Our target is to have 10 to 12 satellites in orbit at a time. Currently, the revisit rate is 5 to 7 days, whereas by 2030, what we are targeting is 10 to 12 satellites, revisit rate of 3 hours in certain places, but daily revisit for sure. This is our facility, the clean room, our office, the MCC where we control our satellite, and the below picture is the entire organization, people sitting with the Drishti satellite when it was being shipped to SpaceX. So what are the advantages? The advantages is the complete and more reliable coverage, because we can take care of the cloud, the weather conditions, so we can provide data consistently anytime when we are passing over the study area. Such redundancy is reduced, uncertainty is reduced. Why? Because when we do the fusion, we do certain transformations, and due to transformation, the noises of the images are taken care. It has an enhanced future detection, what I demonstrated you when we were talking about the stadium and the objects below the cloud. Improved classification and change detection, where we are talking, since we have a more sharper and clearer image, we are able to classify the objects in a better way. And of course, cost efficiency, because if you are going for a fused approach, you have to buy 2 different data sets, fuse them together, you have to keep so many data together, and you have to purchase 2 different data sets. That's how we become cost efficient. A very small case study which we did with our drones we just wanted to demonstrate how effective our data is when it comes to forestry studies here. On the right hand side, you will see the optical SAR and the fuse data. Using that data, we did a canopy cover mapping, and what you see below, you can see that on the left hand side, the canopy cover is getting mapped using the optical data, and the canopy cover getting mapped by a fuse data on the right hand side. You will see the accuracy is much more in the fuse data. That's what I wanted to demonstrate and talk about. Thank you, the organizers, for giving me the opportunity. We have a booth here in the exhibition area. We will be happy to host you there and talk more about it. Thank you.
Another big round of applause for Dr. Deb Jyoti. And if you have questions or clarifications or comments for the presenters who have gone before, you can always meet them after this session. Next, I'm going to welcome Gerald Yegon, Regional Lead Africa Planet Labs. Gerald Yegon. A big round of applause, please.
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for your time today. My name is Gerald. I work with Planet Labs, and I'll tell you shortly who Planet are and what we do. I cover Sub-Saharan Africa, and I focus mostly on civil government business. So as my slides are pulling up, might as well get to know each other. So Planet is a US-based space company. We design, build, and operate our own satellite constellation, and We work with a number of partners who, together, we build solutions now for downstream applications. And, let's give it a minute, see if we need to get the slides up and running. So thank you. So we started operations in 2009, and to date, we have launched more than 600 satellites in orbit. Our focus is in Earth observation satellites, optical satellites. And we have just about 4 types of satellites, and I don't know. Yeah, we have 4 constellations. The first one and the most popular one that people know us for is the Super Doves. These are our PlanetScope satellite constellation. We have about 180 in orbit. We have the ability to image the entire landmass every single day. And with that, we complement with our higher resolution tasking satellites. We have 2 types of those, SkySats and Pelicans. These are our high resolution tasking satellites. These are not always on like the other type of satellites. And we also complement these now with what we call Tanager, which is our hyperspectral band satellites. What we do with Tanagers is we do or enable use cases like methane emissions monitoring, or mapping, mineral mapping, and a couple of other use cases that you need more than what the naked eye can see. Now, we can talk about satellites all day, but in the end, what people want is insights, decisions, and that's why my presentation is focusing on, moving from daily data to actionable intelligence. So, where we sit, we see building sensor data, using sensor data to derive analysis-ready data sets, and pair that with what we call planetary variables. Planetary variables are basically what we try to derive for people who have specific questions. For example, what is the situation with my soil right now? I want to know soil moisture content. I want to know land surface temperature for agricultural applications and other use cases. I may also want to know a lot of other things, including, what are the current construction activities? How busy is this area in terms of development control? With that, of course, we are also enabling now insights, summary statistics, yield prediction, just to mention a few. And together with our partners now, they are even able to interpret for you indicators. Some of the examples that I am mentioning are forest carbon, agriculture and field boundaries data, as well as urban green mapping. We have use cases, interesting use cases around tree cover mapping, deforestation monitoring, alert systems, and forest structure data sets, as well as blue carbon, which is an interesting use case. All these things mean different value to the several verticals that we serve, directly or through the people that we work with in the downstream ecosystem. For example, for defense and intelligence, which includes maritime domain awareness, also land terrestrial monitoring, and a lot of other use cases that we enable. Agricultural applications I'll be talking about, disaster resilience, I'll be mentioning it, forestry, mapping, civil government, insurance, and what have you. In summary, we are helping people capture imagery using our daily capacity or daily coverage redundancy, as well as enhancing these images by building base maps or mosaics that can even help you get now cloud-free imagery. Galaxy, I mentioned, clouds and other are a real problem. That's why SR data is a huge advantage. But on the optical side, what we try to do to reduce that weakness is to build now mosaics and ensuring that we have a higher cadence in terms of coverage. And the whole idea is yesterday's data will enable you to react today. Today's data will help you to act today. But when you combine that, you're able to model and even build scenarios of tomorrow. Now with that, I'd like to highlight a few use cases and maybe tell a story, and then we see if we can relate it. So in Kenya, flooding is a huge growing concern. It has increased in the last few years, not only in terms of frequency, but also in severity, which is why I wouldn't want to talk about Kenya so much because of the political issues, and it's a very hot topic right now. So I'll use our example up north, our neighbors up north in Doloado in Ethiopia. And this is a live image of 2023 taken from a helicopter. And this is the same image of the same area just a few years back, and the 2017 population. So we have also a population data set that we derive from our building density data set together with our partners at Microsoft AI for Good Lab and IHME. Now, when you look at this, what I want to tell you or show you is, again, look at 2022 population, just 5 years later. The new settlements are the highlighted one in blue, those ones here, somewhere here, and also here, and this other area. But what I want to show you is, this is the flooding area. And we are looking at now how populations are actually expanding to these flood-prone areas. And then we basically create this problem. And then we start talking about how we can solve it. But we need to be able to use these data sets to inform how we plan, how we act, how we design settlements, how we actually work, government and citizens, to ensure that we avoid scenarios like this. So what I'm trying to say is, knowing where people live is critical to saving lives. That is why, together with IHME, which is the Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation, and Microsoft, we have built a 40 by 40 meter population estimate data set that helps governments and other users to quantify or estimate how many people are living in a specific area in the event of a disaster or in the event of a scenario that we are trying to avoid. And that is not just a matter of saying we have available data. It's also a function of saying we are putting together population density data together with analytics, including climate-induced migration. And you can see in the example of Kenya, this is actually a quite telling picture, because in the north, you see this area. This is actually the northern part of Kenya, where we have a lot of pastoral livelihoods, a lot of people who rely on pasture for their livelihoods. And of course now, how does food insecurity tie into all that? When you put all of this together, we start asking ourselves important questions about how or what is the correlation between these factors and the disease burden, so that now we are even being proactive in that sense. And I'm going to use another example of a company that uses a very important insight. I mentioned that we have land surface temperature and soil moisture data. Now we have a company called Just Dig It. They are doing a very important intervention where they are trying to rehabilitate deserts. They are digging very nice bands, which are like pies, and they are enabling now, when it rains, these pies basically capture water and enabling vegetation to grow back. They also realize that with this kind of intervention, you are basically unlocking seed beds in the desert, because some of these areas actually had trees many, many years ago. So when you do this, vegetation grows back naturally. So we are helping them monitor the effectiveness of the intervention over time. And this is the power of broad area monitoring. And that's why I want to leave you with an important piece of information. We've recently launched a project called Project Sentinella, where if you're working in the environmental field and you have or are monitoring a critical biodiversity hotspot, we can give you free data as long as you can justify that this is an area that maybe is endangered. We can work together. We can help you restore or monitor your ecosystem. And this is an example. We are targeting 50 vulnerable biodiversity hotspots around the world, and we are basically going to give you data up to 15,000 square kilometers that you can monitor that area and task high-resolution imagery and help you basically in the important work that you're doing. I'm going to use one example that we work to support the Mount Kenya Conservancy here to basically with the Mountain Bongo project. This is an initiative that we are doing jointly with the Kenya Space Agency, and we are monitoring the entire Badea ecosystem and ensuring that we monitor any activity in terms of deforestation and what have you. Now, for the Tanager datasets, it's extremely important to appreciate that it has more than 420 bands. What this means is you can unlock a lot more than what the naked eye can see. We can collaborate on a lot of things that you may want to interpret at the surface level. And of course, in terms of our purpose programs, other things that we do in the event of disasters, in the event of a crisis response, we would give you data to help you in your response and coordination efforts, especially aspects to deal with forestry, biodiversity, climate, crisis response, and of course, food security. So thank you so much for your time and attention. I beg to wind up there. I'm having a booth out there, so if you need to follow up on any inquiry, feel free to pass by and we can have a conversation around how we can work together. Thank you so much for your time and consideration.
Another big round of applause for Gerald Diegon from Planet Labs. Like I said before, if you have any questions, you can reach out to them. They have booths at the back, or you can meet with them outside in the lobby. But that is our presentation for this morning. Please be back here by 9:15 to 9:20, because we want to start on time for the next session for the AI and emerging technologies that starts at 9:30. So please be back here on time. So enjoy your time visiting the different boards that we have out here, the data inclusion pavilion, the exhibitors as well, and also network with people around you so you can gain and have a greater social, social capacity, and also you build your network as well. So thank you so much. Have a great few minutes of your time. Thank you.